fine. I am so sorry. You know what? Just fuck right off. Fuck right off. This. Hello, welcome to the show. It's good to see everybody. God damn it. Today has just been a fucking nightmare of technical problems. Fuck you, Bacon Magma. Here we go, fellas. Yeah, I changed the title. Thanks for the heads up, Saltiest. Focus, focus, focus. How are you guys? No Spazbo. We're just getting started. Welcome to the Gabbin' in the Games for who the fuck knows anymore. It's December something. I don't know. December 15th. We are 10 days from Christmas, 3 days from Sir Steven Spielberg's birthday, whose latest movie is bombing at the box office, unfortunately. Although I haven't seen it, our very own Jojo D went out and saw it. He owes us a movie review. I'll be seeing it next week. Anyway, welcome to Gabbin' in Games. No Bacon Magma. I have not been slacking at all on the content. I have been busy setting up interviews. I've been busy changing the screens. I have been doing all sorts of various things. So, but we are back tonight. We are back for the rest of the week. I will probably be streaming tonight as well. There's an update to Gas Station Simulator I'll be playing. But anyway, okay. Cutoff's film, Cutoff Slim, I don't fucking know, says he's off to get some pot. I appreciate that, sir. Hello, Kaiden, good to see you. Morgan says, what movie is bombing? West Side Story is bombing, apparently. That's the motion picture show that is not doing so well. which makes all the sense in the world. But, you know, we're not here to talk about movies. Whenever I talk about movies, people get mad at me. I put a video up last night saying I went and I read all the spoilers of Spider-Man No Way Home. And I just, you know, I'm not going out to the theaters anymore, at least not for a good while. COVID's back on the rise. I'm not going to go out there and risk that. I've gotten both shots. I've gotten the vaccination. I ain't sitting in a petri dish of COVID. So I go onto the internet last night and I read, and I watch, by the way. There were a bunch of clips from the movie. And I'm not spoiling shit. Don't worry. I wouldn't do that. But I read online what happens, and then I went and I watched 5 or 6 or 7 clips that were uploaded that I think Sony has understandably since taken down. And it looks great. I'm excited to see it, but I'll wait till it streams. I just watched the second to last episode of Hawkeye earlier today. Boy, that was fucking good. I'm totally fucking happy. Totally fucking happy with that shit. You know what? I got to tell you something real quick. We'll get to games. We got a lot of game stuff to talk about. When I was at Bartlett Jones, a couple of folks, it was Doge, who's part of our chat here, and Andrea, who's a wonderful concept artist. And if you're into Animal Crossing, by the way, you should check out her page, because whatever she does full-time, I mean, she's working full-time on a new game, but she also, in her own time, creates these beautiful tile sets for Animal Crossing, the most charming, cozy little fucking things you've ever seen. But anyway, I'm sitting over there at Doja's computer. Andrea's over there. I think she sat by him when I think about it. And they're showing me this website of, and I know if you're under 30, you know about this. And I knew about this. I just never seen it before. But it was a website that literally had all the movies that were currently showing in the motion picture house, but you could watch them right there on your goddamn screen. It was total pirating shit. You didn't have to download them. It was streaming the goddamn things. And now I'm kind of going, man, I'd pay $100 to see Spider-Man on my computer right now. I really fucking would. I don't want to fucking go out and see it, but I would fucking pay money to see the goddamn thing. But anyway, the point being, I don't know what the point. As Bacon Magma will tell you, he thinks I've been slacking. I haven't been slacking, but I've been off for a couple of days doing other things, and so I'm a little rusty. You guys got to be, patient with your old Papa Jaffe tonight as we roll back into the process of how we do this. Robbie Draper wants you to know he saw Spider-Man yesterday. It was pretty decent. Somebody else says it's pretty good too. Imagine having 3 shots and being afraid to get out and see movies. I'm not afraid, you cocksucker. Oh, I couldn't say that's a bad thing. I'm not afraid, you piece of shit. That's better. I'm not afraid like... that's bullshit. That's like saying, imagine... driving 70 miles an hour and thinking you should put on a seatbelt because you're a good driver. Look, I'm 50 years old. I'm overweight. The last thing I fucking need is to get some disease that fills up my lungs with all kinds of nasty shit and I fucking die on a goddamn hospital room. In a room, or on a room. That would be bad too, but that would probably because I froze to death on the roof. Don't know why I would be on the roof, but that's the point. So fuck you, mother. Yeah, I don't care. I don't give a fuck. We are going to talk about NFTs a little bit later, Saltius. Saltius wants you to know NFTs are going to ruin gaming. I don't think they're going to ruin gaming, but I have some things to say about them for sure. Okay, but let's get to the news. Let's get to the video game rigmarole. What's up? Hello. It is good to see you. Listen, I am all over the place tonight, fellas. You're going to have to fucking deal with it. You're going to have to fucking, you don't have to. You can click and watch something else, but we're about to talk about Splinter Cell in just a second. Okay, let's focus. We're focusing now. We're focused. Come on now. You got to give me a little bit of a break, all right? YouTube recommends, says Jarvie Rock, spoiled Spider-Man. You're pretty upset about that. Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, that's one of the reasons I just read all the spoilers. I'm like, I don't want to spend all this effort waiting a month to see it, avoiding and dodging spoilers. No, thank you. No goddamn thank you. So, okay, so let's talk about... well, thank you, Salty. Salty says, Santa Jaffe, it's good to have you on. I appreciate that, buddy. I very, very much appreciate that. I'm still working on the layout. As you can tell, that's the wrong goddamn screen right there. You're not even looking at the right goddamn screen. Hang on. Come on, you guys. It's you know, come on. Tonight is going to have to be one of those, it don't have to be, but tonight is going to be one of those, you know, come on, man. Tonight is going to be one of those, like, this is like when a Broadway show comes on and it's just like, it's in previews. We're going to have all kinds of bugs tonight. Just fucking deal with it. Lord Garth says he gave up worrying about spoilers years ago. I, for the most part, did too. I mean, there might be a couple of movies where I don't want it spoiled, but for the most part, I don't give a shit. Celtic says, is anyone else sad to read that spoilers statistically have been proven to generate more interest in entertainment? I was sad about this. We're going to get into PlayStation in just a second. I was sad about this maybe about 12, 15 years ago. And I read a report. A friend of mine cuts movie trailers, and I think he alerted me to it. We had lunch once, and he told me about it because I was complaining that all the trailers give away the story. And then somebody was complaining about Robert Zemeckis, because Bob Zemeckis, who did Back to the Future, Romancing the Stone, Castaway, tons of big fucking movies, Forrest Gump, his latest movie gave a bunch away. And they asked him about it, and he said, well, the thing is, I hate it as a storyteller. I hate giving away all my shit. He says, but the fact of the matter is movies have been shown to sell more tickets on opening weekend if we give more of the fucking story away. And that's just the fucking truth, man. That's just I agree with you. It's bullshit. I hate it. Celtic, but it's, there you go. BB says, Jaffe, will you review or play The Gunk this Thursday? Yes, I will. I love that developer. If you don't know, The Gunk is coming out. I thought it's coming out tomorrow, but tomorrow's Wednesday, right? But it's coming out this week regardless. It's by the guys who made SteamWorld 1 and SteamWorld 2, SteamWorld Dig, and then SteamWorld Heist, and there was SteamWorld Quest. And this is, I think, out of the SteamWorld world, and that comes out this week, and it's on Game Pass, and absolutely I will absolutely give it a play. Okay. Yeah, and anybody who comes in and spoils Spider-Man, obviously they're getting banned, and we'll remember you. You won't be welcome back. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. So hair metal. We'll get into the goddamn what's it called? The goddamn Splinter Cell. Come on, you guys. Come on, man. All right. Today's Wednesday. Okay, let's talk about this real quick. I want to judge you for a moment, and I'm not even kidding. I know it sounds like I'm joking a little bit, but I want to judge you. Not all of you, but some of you. If you're going out and you're buying one of these, I'm fucking judging you. I think it's a dumb thing to buy. I think it's dumb. Do I think they look great? I absolutely think they look great. They're really pretty. They're really fucking pretty. And the controllers are pretty. But these little sheets of plastic that cost probably about 85 cents to make, Sony has decided they're going to sell these to you for a grand total of, I think, $55. So you can spend $55 and change the color of your PlayStation. Now, when I say I'm judging you, what I mean by that is you're a moron, okay? I understand, and joking aside, I really want to connect with the spirit inside your shell for a moment and go, look, pretty things are nice. I get that. It brings peace. It brings calm and all this shit, okay? But here's why it's on my mind. I'm not even fucking with you. It's on my mind because I have one of my kids has a friend. And this friend, I'll tell you, I was stunned. I mean, I shouldn't be in America these day and age, but this friend's mom wasn't doing that great of a job, and this friend was posting on social media how hungry they were. They literally didn't have a lot of food, and they were going to bed hungry with some Kool-Aid and Ritz crackers is all they had. And we were just like, that's no. And we sent DoorDash and had them come over and all that stuff. I don't know if they, I don't get into too many details, but the fact is, and I saw that, and the next morning I woke up and I saw this fucking thing, and I'm just like, we throw money away in this goddamn country. I mean, I'm not even fucking with you. Here's me judging you. It's Christmas. There are people who don't have fucking food to eat. If you spend $55 on a goddamn piece of plastic to cover your goddamn $500 console instead of taking that money down to the Walmart and paying off someone's layaway for Christmas presents or taking it to a food shelter or donating it to some kind of good cause, I am judging you and your goddamn problem. Get your shit together. Fix your shit. Because that's just terrible. That's all I got to say. Carlos, you can go fuck yourself. He says, I don't care if you judge me, Jaffe. You made Drawn to Death, so I still win. Let me explain something to you, sir. I made so many hit games in my career that I can afford to sit on my ass and stream all day. What can you afford to do all day, bitch? Did I make Drawn to Death? You goddamn right I did. Did it miss the mark? You goddamn right it did. That's how things go. That's what happens when you put your balls on the platform and you say, I'm willing to take a chance, coach. Put me in. You wouldn't know anything about that. I'm just fucking with you. But truth be told, go fuck yourself. Okay. Screw those colors, says Mutant Mo. I want a sexy lady faceplate. I don't have a problem with customizing shit. I have a problem with overpaying for shit, especially when people are struggling so goddamn much. People are struggling so goddamn much. Jarvie Rock says, Jaffe, I already know I'm a moron. I'm not buying those stupid things, but I'm still a moron. I understand. And by the way, if you want to call and tell me I'm wrong, you can call into the Discord right now or anytime during the show. Put yourself in the call-in waiting room on the Discord. I will be there for you as soon as I get a moment. Lord have mercy. People throw money at you when they want to support you. Why not Sony, says Daniel. It's not, because I'm not asking people to spend exorbitant amount of money on something that brings little value. If people look at me and they say, I watch your stream, Jaffe, I don't feel like paying for it, I appreciate that. That's fine. It just means I have to work harder to merit or to get you to say that's entertainment I value. If you're already paying for this entertainment, which I appreciate very much, thank you all, I assume what that means is you get a great deal of value. I'm not judging you spending your money on anything that's frivolous. I'm judging you spending your money on something that is ultimately stupid. Okay? My PS5 is sitting under my goddamn desk right now. Your PS5 is probably sitting on a shelf. Who are you buying it to impress? You think a girl's going to come over and go, that's a sexy fucking red PlayStation. I'm going to fuck you now. Come on. And you can even say, well, I'm just doing it for myself. It's aesthetically pleasing. You know what's more aesthetically pleasing? Knowing you go to bed at night, you've made a family be able to eat some fucking dinner. That's more aesthetically pleasing. I told you I was judging you. Let's move the fuck on. PlayStation comes out with the patent. Did you see this? And by the way, I will have the discussion with you. I'm not really being a dick to you. I'm just saying there's something that seems a little out of whack in this country. And I am only speaking for America. I can't speak to any other countries. I've only visited a couple of them. Something seems a little bit out of whack. And I'm not doing politics with you. We're not going to get into Republicans and Democrats and all that shit. I'm just saying something seems a little bit crazy when we have all this wealth and all this power and we have people literally who are going to bed hungry at night and I just don't understand how we allow this to happen. The patent reminds me of Minority Report, Jaffe says Saltius. You goddamn right, we're about to talk about it. That's exactly what it reminds me of, too. It also reminds me of that Black Mirror episode with the credit rating or the social rating. So PlayStation patents an automated system to detect trolls and disruptive players and positive players in multiplayer games. Now, what I think is not really explained here. This isn't very well written because I went through it 5 or 6 times. The patent itself doesn't look like it's an advanced AI that's able to recognize when these things happen. That is not what's going on here, although it kind of sounds like it until you really dive in and read this thing carefully. All it is, although it's kind of interesting, but it's also kind of creepy, is when a player is accused of good or bad behavior, instead of it just being a one-off, or maybe they track it in some computer and they move on with their lives, there is now going to be a system, or at least they have patented a system, that will let an algorithm look at your good behavior and your bad behavior, and it will assign you a score. And the score will determine at the moment what the patent says it will do. It will basically take your score, behavior marks they call it, into account. And then then it basically says it will be used for automated matchmaking. They can track disrupted players more accurately. So let's take Bacon Magma, who we know cheats at Mortal Kombat. Bacon Magma, for example, they'll go, oh, Bacon Magma's online playing, Killzone multiplayer. Oops, did I say too much? He's online playing Killzone multiplayer. Let's put some more resources towards Magma because we know he's a cheater in other games, right? And that score, that behavioral points will determine if they track you or not. Now, I think first off, that's okay. I don't really have a problem with that. The question becomes, are these guys going to step in and start? Now, no, I'm just making this up. This is like Saltius on the screen right now. You say the patent reminds me of Minority Report. I agree. But only if they do what they're doing here, it doesn't matter. But think about this. What if these guys start going, we want to motivate, because it's in their best interest as a business. I mean, they could do this. It's certainly legal. But ask yourself this. They could say, we want to motivate good behavior on PlayStation Online games because it makes our business grow. Parents feel better about the place. Kids don't, we have longer play times because people aren't getting offline more often. we want to really push this. And so we're not just going to say matchmaking. We're going to say that if your score falls below this threshold, you don't get the 20% discount on PlayStation games and the PSN score. Or if your score falls below this threshold in a shooter, your respawn time gets an additional 10 seconds before you get to respawn back in the match every time you get killed. Now think about that. Think about that. Again, it's a private company. They have every goddamn right to do it. But I could fuck shit up really bad. I want to tell you something. A good friend of ours, he's been a member of the stream. Lord Garth, Cult of Calypso, for the God's sakes. He's been a member for 5 months. He says, who gets to be head of Sony pre-troll division? I would be great at that job because I wouldn't take shit, man. I would just be there. It's like, nope, that's racist. You're fucking out. Nope, that's misogynist. Nope, that's, God, I would be good though. I would be fair because you guys know me. I'm even Steven. I'm pretty fair on this stuff. I think people have a right to express themselves, but there's a point where it crosses the line, and that's when we got to shut you down. That's all I'm fucking saying. Also want to let you know that our good friend Zero Signal has stepped up to the plate. He says, you know what, Jeffy, I like the cut of your jib. I don't know what that means, but I want to suck your cock. Come on now. I'm not into that, but I appreciate it. It's flattering, Zero Signal. He says, I want to be one of the Diet Soda Soldiers. You, sir, have now been initiated after you take this magical pill into the Diet Soda Soldiers. This is for you, Zero Signal. Bloop. There you go. All right. Competitive trash talking. That sounds actually pretty good, though, Dante. I haven't heard about this. Bacon Magma says, hey, don't become a member to Jaffe channel. Give your money to the hungry. Hey, fuck you, bitch. I'm down. I'm down with that. I got no problem. Look at Rob laughing. Fuck you, Rob the mod. Totally Sick of Onion says, I just saw I was the only comment on a video in your old channel. 0 likes, 0 other comments. See, I got your back, Sick of Onions. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Fuck you, Encryption. Hurry up and get to Splinter Cell. I am going at my leisurely pace, motherfucker. And listen, another thing is I've been a little tired because I've been up late as a motherfucker finishing up the Halo campaign. And I will be doing my review for it tonight or tomorrow, but I will tell you offhand, I think it's great, man. I thought it was absolutely just delightful. I've loved the multiplayer. I've loved the single player. It's excellent. Just fucking excellent. I know there's a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there are people who hate it. I don't really understand that, but to be fair, I've never been like a long-term Halo fan, so for all I know, there's all this shit that's broken that you guys used to love about it. But for a guy who's relatively new to the series, I played 1 a little bit, didn't like it, played 2 a little bit. I liked it, but I moved on with my life, and that's mostly it. I think it's fucking excellent. Wolfblood says they fucked up by not having co-op on launch day. Why? I mean, it would have been nice to have, but do you really think that is oh my God. That text is very big. I didn't know it was that big. Sorry about that, fellas. I didn't think it was that big of a problem, but maybe if you jump into it and you're a hardcore Halo fan, that potentially could be a really big miss. Like if you grew up playing it with your brother and now you can't, I could see that. Death Proof, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, do you remember the show you were on, Code Monkeys? Yep. You gotta, come on, baby. You gotta ask some, you paid $2 for that, which I appreciate. Thank you, sir. I do appreciate that, Death Proof. But yeah, what do you, I do remember it. I remember it. They called me. I thought it was fun to do. I went down there. I drove down to Marina Del Rey where they did the recording just in some little office building. And it's kind of cool that people still mention it to me. I thought it was a lot of fun to do. Captain Crunch says, Halo says, it's so damn fun. Best open world shooter campaign since Borderlands. I love it. Thank you, Turbo. Turbo says, Jaffe, I appreciate you taking the time to make the content. Thank you, sir. James Bond, you're like a 5-year-old child. You're a fucking moron. Okay. Yes, Brian East, I was on Code Monkeys. Absolutely. Cooper says, love it. My only complaints about Halo are the storytelling and lack of give you chills hype moments. Intro is underwhelming. I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I think there are some problems I'm going to get into detail on my review, but I enjoyed it, but it wasn't a perfect game, but it was goddamn good enough to be very much jockeying for Game of the Year for me. I thought it was fucking fantastic. Turbo SRT, thank you for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you, sir. Very generous of you. Let us move the fuck on. This was interesting. Consumers continue to show a significant preference for the PlayStation 5. over Xbox Series XS. There was a survey that this group did. Let me take a little sip of the bubbly. One moment. And we can talk about Halo at the end of the show if you guys want to dive into it. But right now we got things to talk about that you need to know to be informed. Let me ask you a question. So you're at a bar, and a lady saddles up next to you, and she gives you a wink and a smile, and she's clearly interested in you. And she says, hey, did you hear about that survey that was done by DFC Intelligence about what gamers, preferred? If you don't pay attention right now, what's going to happen? No, what happened? She's out. She's out of your life. She's out of my life. I wonder if the algorithm can recognize that I'm singing a song from Michael Jackson, and in that, demonetize the stream. It's possible. God, I'm hyper today. Shut the fuck up, Jeffy. Shut the fuck up. Okay, here's what happened. It was a relatively big survey. It was, I think it was like over 4,000 people or 2,000. It was like 3,800 people, whatever. The firm conducts a survey, very detailed, October, November. It showed that consumers are still leaning heavily towards PS5 and Nintendo Switch. Now, interestingly, this was interesting. This was strange. So they basically, here's what they said. They said, look, I would prefer to buy a PlayStation 5. They said, why? Well, the power of it. It's powerful, and the graphics are great. But you know what system has the higher rated library of games and online services? Are Xbox. So they're acknowledging they're not going to buy an Xbox, but they are saying that, yeah, they have better games right now. Now, it may be the word current, right? If anybody looks at PlayStation 2022, right now they have the lineup to beat. There's no doubt with God of War and Horizon coming and Gran Turismo, if you're into that sort of thing. I think there's like 3 or 4 other timed exclusives coming. Based on what Xbox has announced in terms of just moment-to-moment video games, I think Sony has them beat for next year. So maybe when they say the current game library, that is one of the reasons that this data is coming out, which is the question was, I plan to buy this platform and use it to play games. No, I'm going to stick it up my asshole. What do you think I'm going to do with you, fucking moron? But don't say that to the girl at the bar. That's just for us. So they did 2,800. Sorry, I was wrong. Xbox Series X, only 22% want to buy it, but the PlayStation 5 doubles it almost at 41.6%. Nintendo's hybrid platform leads the way. Don't ask me why. I don't know why the Switch is such a hit. Maybe that's one of the reasons I got out of the business, because I don't understand consumers anymore. I don't know why y'all love your Switches so much. I have one. It perpetually collects dust. From time to time, I bring it out and I try to play something on. I'm going to go back to my Xbox or PlayStation or computer. I don't understand it. Even when I sit on the toilet, I don't want to play on that goddamn thing. All right, fellas, there's the story there. DFC does say the biggest issue Microsoft faces with the Xbox is lukewarm desire for online services. Online services, VR, and cool-looking system were the lowest rated feature of this survey. Price, which I guess they're all mingled in, probably that's the Switch. Power and great games continue to be the driving factor. So think about this. Price wins, according to these guys, on the Switch. It says the Switch won on Nintendo's hybrid, leads the way in consumer perception when it comes to price. 60% of the respondents already own it, and 27% who don't said they want to buy it. So Nintendo wins on price, right, which is one of the trifecta, or one of the trinity. And then power, according to the survey, PlayStation 5 wins, and current great games wins on Xbox. So it, maybe it is that it's true what they say, which is, even though I don't really buy systems for the first two, it is the first time where we've had systems that really do focus on different things. Last thing about this, interesting, they say when it comes to upcoming titles, consumers appear to be more interested in Sony's God of War sequel, you goddamn right, God of War Ragnarok, and Nintendo's Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel. Among interest in new and upcoming games, Forza Horizon 5 had a similar rating to Sony's GT7. This was surprising to me. PlayStation 5 Horizon Forbidden West had a similar consumer interest to Xbox exclusive Halo Infinite. That is surprising given that Halo Infinite has been a beloved brand for well over a decade, and Horizon Forbidden West is just going into its second sequel. Okay. Rod Raderp says the Switch is for kids and adults with tiny hands. Perhaps it may be. Death Proof, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, me and my wife laugh at people that get easily offended, so I showed her the first episode, and holy shit, Twitter would nuke itself with those jokes. You mean on the Code Monkeys? Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you go back 10 years. We're going to talk in a minute about Lollipop Chainsaw, which they say is getting a remaster. Not sure if it's true, but that's the rumor. I don't know how that game survives cancel culture in 2021, but you're goddamn right. Only 10 years ago, things were a little more relaxed. Come on now. Totally Sick of Onions drops super chat. By the way, Death Proof, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate it. Totally Sick of Onions, thank you for your super chat. He says, deck the halls with the bowels of holly, whoever she is. Let me tell you something. That's the serial killer song. And if you know that, you are probably a serial killer yourself. If I was a serial killer, I would absolutely dress up. I would dress up as a serial killer. And I would, if I had to do it, if I felt compelled to take people's lives, I would do two things. I would dress up and be a serial killer character. They would remember your Papa Jaffe. I would not just be, oh, here's some mild-mannered looking dude, whatever. No. I would have fucking weird-ass eyes and contact lenses that have like crazy 8 balls in them. And I'd fucking, tattoo my fucking, tongue. And I would be creepy. And then I would do I would only go after people who deserve it. David K, that makes me... Fuck you, Brinies. What am I flexing on? Spazbo says, ignoring multiplayer, Nintendo makes the best replayable games on the Switch. Give me an example of one. What do you like to replay on the Switch? Eric Lennon, I agree with rarely, but in this case I do. He says, Xbox is the best consumer value at the moment. No one else comes close. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Lord Garth says, should I trade my PS5 for a Halo Series X? I can always get a new PS5. I will tell you, Lord Garth, that they're both really great systems. I play both. I probably spend 33, and 33% between X, PS5, and PC, and I really don't. I have affection for the Xbox just because Game Pass, as people know, is such a good fucking deal. And so many things I'm playing that I never would have spent money on before and I'm falling in love with. So you need to experience Game Pass if you're a gamer. It's absolutely worth it. But that's not to diminish the great games that you can only get on PlayStation. Hello, Salman. Hello, good sir. All right, David K drops in. He says, I'm in life, sad and alone, sad face. Thank you for the super chat, number one. I'm in life. I don't know what you're saying. It sounds like you're saying you're having a rough go of it. All I can tell you, we're gonna get into video games, but this is an important thing David K is writing. Seriously, no joke. Because you're not the only person probably watching this goddamn stream feeling depressed. A lot of people feel depressed, more than feel comfortable admitting it, okay? Most of what people show you, and you got to know this, not just you, David K, but everybody's got to know this. Most of what people show you of their lives is bullshit. It's bullshit. Okay? Life is hard. It's wonderful sometimes, but it's hard. It's chaotic. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. It can be incredibly sad. And sometimes it's the luck of a draw. Sometimes it's got nothing to do with anything that's happening in your life. You can have the most supportive, loving friends and family, and you still are dealing with chemical depression, which is absolutely no one's fault. Not that any depression is anyone's fault, but certainly the chemical shit. You're like, what the fuck did I do to deserve this shit? It's a bear. It's a monster. It'll drown you in the waters of sorrow if you let it. But there are solutions. There's medicine. There's therapy. There's a new thing, by the way. It's called Spirit. And I'm not even fucking with you. I know it sounds like hokum bullshit. You can major strides are happening in curing depression with magnets. I know what it sounds like. I'm not an idiot. It's been all in medical journals. And psychotropic drugs. So don't give up, pal. Come on now. Come on, David K. Everybody give David K an emote who has the ability of the prettiest woman in the goddamn world. That'll at least perk him up a little bit. But I appreciate the super chat, buddy. I hope you're doing well. Rob the Mod says, I was bad off and meds saved my life. I know people just like it. Life really makes no sense, says Eric. Like, what the fuck are we here for? It really, it does and it doesn't. Fuck you, Mutant Mo, you son of a bitch. Look, Dave, thank you, Jarvie. Thank you, Pause. Fuck you, Cooper. That's what I'm saying. Jarvie Rock's got himself a little Taylor Swift, Melissa Benoist sandwich. I can appreciate that. Exercise can very much help with depression. Thank you, Aldo. Truth Teller says, stay strong, David K. You are not alone. That's goddamn right. You're goddamn right. But hang in there, pal. We're going to get back to games. We're going to talk about what the fuck was that? We're going to talk about Horizon in just a second, and we're going to talk about Lollipop Chainsaw. But I will say, I was taking a walk the other night, and I was thinking about life, and I was thinking about how, you know, it's fascinating to know what we're not capable of knowing. Like when you have that realization and you just come to the mental roadblock of what was there before there. And you cannot solve that. You cannot solve this, the philosophical conundrum of, sure, maybe there's no God, wouldn't surprise me. Maybe there's no aliens. Maybe we're all alone. Maybe we're in a simulation. Maybe this, maybe that, maybe that. But end of the day, though, even if it's all meaningless, where did it come from? And you can't even say God, even though I don't believe in God. You can't even say God. Because then you go, well, okay, well, he had to come from somewhere. It's like none of this makes any fucking sense. And you got to just get comfortable with that because you drive yourself crazy. Rex, you can go suck a bag of moldy dicks. Rex says, make a Splinter Cell video so I don't have to sit through your stream. Rex Colt, let me tell you something. You have a bullshit name with a bullshit avatar. I'll tell you what, Rex, I will jump ahead to the Splinter Cell conversation if you get on the goddamn Discord and you have the balls to get on the Discord and talk to me about your smarmy fucking comment. That's what I'll do. I was just about to bring in onions and he popped away. You fucking, not you're the, Rex is the moron. Spazbo says, hey, look, the example is, and he's talking about why Nintendo games have great replay. The example is Nintendo games rarely go down in price, unlike PS4 and Xbox, where within a month you can grab a game for less than half. Yeah, I understand, but I need to know what games specifically do you like to go back and play on the Nintendo. That's what I'm saying. Crazed Assassin says, I know where we come from. We come from Stardust. Yeah, but where does the Stardust come from, man? The Console War documentary, says Mutant, on Paramount Plus shows how Nintendo was ruthless at the retailers during the 16-bit era. Listen to me. I'll bring you in a second, Onions. Listen to me. I have not, speaking of that, Mutant Mo, I have not watched that documentary that Xbox just put out on their 20-year anniversary. But somebody was telling me that they, and if this and then what Mutant Mo just posted is not enough to get Console Wars out of your mind, then you're a fucking moron, okay? The Xbox guys apparently shipped 20% of the 360 knowing the Red Ring of Death would happen, but they did it because they knew if they got that much into the channel, it would benefit them. Nintendo, according to Mutant Mo, based on the documentary, were ruthless. They did all kinds of, I mean, it was legal, but they did all kinds of, really nasty shit in order to sort of get market share. It's their right if it wasn't breaking the law. So I'm just saying that this idea that these guys are your friends, that Reggie and Bowser and Sean Layden and Herman Holst and Ryan and Phil Spencer are your pals, come on. These motherfuckers will, I don't need to tell you how, that's what they do. I'm not saying the humans are bad, but the corporations have no choice but to be bad. Totally sick of onions. How are you doing today? Be interested or I'll cut you off. That's the warning. Go.
Well, I did accidentally dip out earlier, but I made that comment about Deck the Halls with the Bowels of Holly, whoever see it.
Yes, I remember. It was just a few moments ago. I'm not a moron.
Well, that's up for debate. But anyways.
Hey! Just for that, you have to now. I have nothing lined up. All right, go ahead. What do you want to talk about?
All right, so the perfect murder, in my opinion, it needs to take place in the winter, obviously. And you find your victim, and you get an icicle, and you make it sharp, and you stab it through their arteries, or you just basically stab them to death with an icicle. The evidence melts, no fingerprints. What do you say?
I think that's pretty good, actually. I think that's pretty goddamn good. Now you have to find, that's a great fucking character in a book, like a murder mystery, but you got to find a place without a camera, because the camera's everywhere these days. But yeah, if you could absolutely kill somebody with an icicle, you could run roughshod over the over justice for decades. You'd be called Jack Frost. No, you wouldn't be called. You couldn't be called Jack Frost yet until they caught you, because then they'd go, well, this is what he's doing. But they would know that you would strike in the winter.
That name might have been taken. Possibly.
You're a serial killer. Do you think you're worried about trademarks and copyrights?
Well, fuck yeah. Every serial killer is worried about copyrights and trademarks.
I don't think so. Thank you for the call. I love you, buddy. See you soon.
Mwah.
Oh my God, that was a nice, wet, nasty kiss. Okay. The fuzz will detect water-based rot in the stab wound, says Kaiden. There's Kaiden always coming in and messing up our fun. Brian E. says, assuming you can ambush the person in question and hit a vital spot out of the gate. Well, that's called skill. You don't go out for the first kill until you're ready to go. Okay. David Jaffe, it's a movie called Iceman. Oh, it's already done. Okay, let's move on. But I appreciate the call. Anybody wants to call in, put yourself in the call in waiting room. This news came out today. It's not really news, but PlayStation has decided to show everybody, hey, look, fellas, Horizon Forbidden West is coming out on the PlayStation 4. We knew that, but I just wanted to point this out. I'm feeling very Christmassy and charitable and all that stuff, because it's like, I think back to when I was a kid, and I've talked about this before, but we didn't have a lot of money growing up. And I don't know if my parents would have been able to afford a PS5, even if they could have found one. But we probably would have had a PS4. And the fact that Sony's like, look, man, I know a lot of hardcore gamers hate the fact that this game is on both because they think it's harming their PS5 version, whatever. But fact of the matter is, there's over 100 million people who own this system. These are the screenshots they put out today. These look pretty good. They don't look as good as the PS5, granted. But this is not, if you're driving or whatever and you're not looking at the screen, these are basically 4 screenshots that Guerrilla put out today from Horizon, and they look pretty good. I don't even think they look as good, frankly, as God of War PS4. But they look good, they're solid. Adversary 1 says, meh. Turbo says, the pic with her standing on the rock looks terrible. The geometry and textures are okay, they're not Dreamcast-like. Come on. But I hear you. I mean, but again, so what? You have the older system. The game runs. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that fantastic? Why would we dislike that, right? You're going to get people who are able to play and experience it. Oh, Realism says it looks like barf. Come on. In what world does this game look like barf? Come on, man. That's just not true. David K says, super chat time. He says, Jaffe, I'm sorry. I meant I can't find a girlfriend. Thus, I'm sad and alone. Still rich and famous through multiple people have died from my life. Wait, David K, is this Stoner Joe? He says, I mean I can't find a girlfriend. Thus, you're sad and alone. Well, why are you either one of those things? Because you can't find a girlfriend. Can you find some friends? You don't have to be alone. And why are you sad? Why do you need a girlfriend? I don't understand. I mean, I understand, but I'm saying it to get you to question the societal construct that we get sold that says, in order to be a complete human, you must be relationshiped off to someone. Sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's not. Maybe you're just in a phase where you're not ready for a girlfriend. Maybe you've got work to do on yourself. Still rich and famous, though. Well, who are you in real life? I don't know anybody famous named David K., but I do thank you for the super chat, and I do invite you to give us a little bit more detail there, baby. Bukaki, he's Cult Calypso, has been a member for 15 months. He knows I appreciate that. He says, Sony betrayed me as a gamer. Fuck off, Bukaki. All you're doing is stirring the pot. You are stirring the toilet pot is what you're doing. Because that's not true. Because they put this out and they say, hey, talking about Horizon again, that looks pretty good, that giraffe fucking thing. There are going to be people who couldn't afford to play it who get to play it now. Come on. Okay, let's move on. I want to talk about Lollipop Chainsaw. Now, the only time I have played Lollipop Chainsaw was at E3 2011, I think it was. And I liked it a lot. I thought it was fun. It reminded me of Buffy the Vampire Slayer from, I think they were called not the Collective. Were they called the Collective? They did the Indiana Jones game, the Buffy game. Really good group. Tony Barnes, I think, was over there. it was fun, and it obviously had a lot of cool attitude and whatnot. It was neat. So it was the collective, says Celtic. Okay. But then it just came, and I was busy with Twisted Metal 2012, and I never got around to playing it. And then before you know it, we were into PS4, and then you can't find it anymore, and it's going for like $250 over on the YouTube or the eBay or whatever. And so I'm like, well, I'd like to play that game because I think it's cool looking, and I remember enjoying it on the Florida E3, and I see this that says there's a rumor from someone called Oops Leaks, and Oops Leaks is a relatively dependable leaker. It's not 100%, but he's got a good batting order, and he's basically saying, hey, keep an eye out, Lollipop Chainsaw Remaster has been hinted, okay? And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I go to the NeoGAF thread, and I start to look at it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so overtly sexual that I'm just like, I mean, I would love it, right? But I don't know how in the world they could get away with it. If you're not looking at your screen, I'm looking at a GIF right now of Lollipop Chainsaw, who is an 18-year-old girl. I assume, or if I remember reading the description last night correct, she just turned 18. So when this GIF was taken a day ago, she was 17 and underage. That's the kind of thing we're talking about here. And you can look up her panties. She's barely wearing a thing. James Gunn did work on it. And then, I mean, it's hypersexual. It's overtly sexual. And I just don't understand how... I'm not saying they shouldn't. I don't have a problem with stuff like this. I think stuff like this is great if it comes from the right place. I think it's you know, I mean, I'm absolutely a feminist. I think women, if they want, or gay men, if they want, should have the ability to see just as overtly sexual games about men if they're interested. And it shouldn't be harmful. It should just be kind of fun, like sex is supposed to be. But that's my take on it. I could see a lot of people saying, no goddamn way. I don't know who would spend the money to remaster this and end up with what it actually looks like. There's no way you could do it. I mean, maybe, you know, movie games, the guys I'm working with in Poland could, because they're the ones that just, you know, did Lust from Beyond and stuff. But I don't see how a pro company gets the rights to this and puts this fucking out. Bacon says, I need this game in my collection right now. Brian says, I think I know why they tried to cancel James Gunn if he did contribute to Lollipop Chainsaw. Well, I honestly didn't remember that she was in high school. Now, she's legal, and that's great, but it so walks that line. I mean, it so walks that fucking line where it's like, you know, that whole age of consent thing people debate and discuss about Japan, and then something. It's not pedophilia, but it's disturbing. But I still would fucking play it, because I'm not gonna lie, I think, you know, I don't know what her name is, Juliet. She's an attractive lady. She's an attractive lady with the chainsaw, and she's got a severed head for her companion, and she goes on a cool adventure. Yes, Josh Douglas, James Gunn, the movie director. The woke mob on Twitter says Jar is already pissed. Well, give me some details. I haven't seen anybody pissed about it. I just looked at it and said there's no goddamn way that they're not going to be pissed, but I haven't seen anything. It's not my place to say, says Diego, but this game kind of makes fun of sexist tropes in games. But on the other hand, it's hypersexual. I don't know. Hope they make the remaster. It's fun. That's the thing, is I don't have a problem with hypersexual. I am a feminist. I think it should be a woman should never feel obligated to be hypersexualized. But in terms of if a woman wants to express that side of herself, or a man or a human, I think that's wonderful and healthy if it comes from the right place. And I think it's wrong to act like it's wrong to enjoy it. There's a boss that has an attack where the words come out of his mouth just screaming. This is Zero Signal. He says there's a boss that has an attack where words come out of his mouth just screaming whore bitch. And it's honestly real mean-spirited. Okay, again though, I don't know anything about that. I still think people should be able to release whatever the fuck they want. But if the game is mean-spirited, I could see I have a harder time defending it. Not that it needs me to defend it, not that I would ever say it shouldn't be allowed to be published. That's the right of anyone who wants to pony up their ducats and be a publisher. But if you're saying there's out and out misogyny, and it's not misogyny painted in such a way that it looks like it's being, mocked or pushed back on, like the guy's a bad guy or something, I don't know. Then I think suddenly if Sony or Xbox or Switch puts out a game that is overtly misogynistic, not hypersexualized, but misogynistic, I think that's a little bit different. I think it's a little bit different in terms of how much this will have a group of people welcoming it to the market. Flamer says, Flamer Alaj says, I think there will be more people that'll be turned on by Lollipop than mad at it. The truth of the matter is, probably a large percentage of the people who are mad at it because they are turned on by it and they just don't want to admit it. That's probably what the goddamn truth is. Where did that question go? 1 second. Somebody said, great question, Jar, but I don't know where Jar's question went. Where'd he go? Jaffe, there's no, it's okay. Hang on. I apologize, fellas. I was going to read something. I think if a grown hetero man can't admit to being physically attracted to someone who isn't quite 18, they're dishonest. It's illegal. It's wrong, but ain't none of us 100% pure in thought, says Celtic. Oh, I agree. Although she is 18, but I mean, I think those who protest too much, I thought progressives used to make fun of prudes. I am making fun of, I don't understand. Bacon says, do you think the Sony exec who just got fired for the pedophile sting enjoyed this game? No, because he was into guys. So, and plus I don't think it's definitely not by definition pedophilia. It is an adult woman. But that said, though, she is a high school student. It's a little weird. The term, Morgan says, I hope the term weeb dies off. It's an incredibly xenophobic word. I'm not saying you're wrong, but that is news to me. Why? Doesn't it just mean like weeaboo? And weeaboo is like what? Just like someone who likes Chinese culture or something? I'm not explaining. I if it's bad, I wouldn't use it. It's educate me if you don't mind. I would appreciate it. David K says, thank you for the super chat, David K. He says, I'd my D's de once. A life with Vijay worth it? I'm saying no. Biden and Gaga know of me. I am Stoner Joe's director. I may have let it go too far. David K., that makes no goddamn sense. I appreciate the super chat, but at this point, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, sir. I think you may very well have taken too much NyQuil. I recommend you lie down, fall asleep, wake up. You feel a little groggy, and then you'll feel better. Diego, but thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, this just really seems to me, says Diego, like the typical thing when conservative gamers say, ooh, the angry mob is going to cancel it, and it never happens. I'm not saying they're going to cancel it. I'm saying that I can't imagine in this culture that there's a publisher out there who would say, yes, I want to roll the fucking dice on this. I hope there is, because I want to play it. But I'm trying to think who would publish this. What publisher do you think? Devolver? I don't even think Devolver would publish this anymore. So Weeaboo is a non-Asian person who's obsessed with Asian culture, says Zero Signal. Well, how is that xenophobic? Okay. Okay. They use it to describe Japanese media forms. David K says, I'm sorry, I'm bored. Well, Jesus, is the stream not entertaining enough for you? Jesus, come on, man. What can I do for you? New Blood might publish it. Yeah, Saad Khan. They would be a great publisher for it. Absolutely. Let's talk about Splinter Cell. Let's jump to Splinter Cell, shall we? Yeah, Activision would publish it. Sure they would. Nawdog says Warner Brothers published it with Kadokawa. Yeah, but times have changed. But I hear you. All right, Splinter Cell. We know about the rumor. The rumor comes out today. And in fact, I don't even think it's a rumor. I think they released a video of this today. They're basically saying Toronto, Ubisoft, who I think are the same guys who did Far Cry 6, are coming out with a remake, not a remaster, a remake of Splinter Cell, the original from 2002. Okay. Now, this is still published by Ubisoft. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Ubisoft in today's stream when we get to NFTs, but I don't understand. I don't see a road for Ubisoft to make this game in this day and age. If I was Ubisoft, I would go to Crystal Dynamics or Microsoft or Sony and say, would you like to buy the Splinter Cell franchise? And then Sony could, or Microsoft could question the value versus just making their own fucking spy. But ultimately, when is the last time Ubisoft has done any game that has not fallen in lockstep with their formula, which has shown not to be a failure, but has shown to be, one of their most successful at-bats since they've been in this Assassin's Creed Odyssey realm. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is their second best-selling product of all time in the history of the company. It is the best-selling Assassin's Creed of all time, and that's of a franchise that has sold insane amounts on a per copy basis or a per title basis. So they're not going to suddenly give us a linear adventure or even a semi-linear adventure. Now, I'm not opposed to the idea of open world Splinter Cell at a conceptual level. I know some people mention Hitman. Hitman's a little too stealthy for me. I know the first Splinter Cell was more stealth than action, but I'd like to think it's not going to be that breakdown anymore. I'd like to think it's going to let you solve it however you want. The last two Splinter Cells, I think, had a really good balance of stealth, using gear to determine if you want to use stealth or you want to use action, and straight up action. I would love an open world game like that. But the problem with an open world game like that is unless you're going to have the resources and desire to do, the game design version of Zelda Breath of the Wild's dungeons, or even the overworld in Link to the Past dungeons, you've got to have those handcrafted scenarios, and they have to be the mainstay. If this becomes run around and collect the 500 or the 50 briefcases, and then the top secret plans, and then you can set up these safe houses in every city in the world that you can fly to, and it just breaks down into their cookie cutter bullshit again. Maybe, look, I'm not going to say it's going to fail. It probably will sell more because Ubisoft is continually rewarded by gamers for following this formula. And Ubisoft would probably say, well, you want us to spend 80 million, 100 million, probably more on a linear game that someone can play once and they can watch on YouTube and they can buy it used? Why would we do that when we can spend 300 million, make an open world game, and those things do fucking phenomenal for us? And they would be right. They would be right. So Vitaphone says they've said it's not sandbox. Where did they say it was not a sandbox game? Because I didn't see that. I saw that they said, what I read was they said that, where's their quote? We're going to take the time to explore what a remake means for us, for light and shadow, for animation tech, gameplay, even audio. We want to bring fans something new, yet still connect them to the feeling that they had 2 decades ago playing the masterpiece for the first time. Now, maybe it's somewhere else, and I didn't see that article. I would love for you to link me to... Can somebody link me to the text that says it's going to be made linear? I want to parse the language, because I hope you're right. Because, okay, so let's take that for a minute. Let's assume that it is going to be a linear game. Okay? If it's going to be a linear game, then ask yourself, is it going to be a linear game because they think... I mean, this is fascinating to me then. Let's assume, send me the link when you can. Okay, it's the official Ubisoft news article. Let me go to that first. Ubisoft news article. Splinter Cell. I mean, where would I find that? Oh, there it is, right there. Here we go. Okay, god damn it, Jaffe. No. Okay, here's what it says. Blah, 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 blah. Here, let's just look up linear. Okay, it doesn't. Oh, linear? No. Where do you see that? Where is it? Is this the article? Somebody should show me where it is in here. You can still make it linear without making the level design linear like before, says CR3D. Well, I understand that you can make more like God of War linear, or you know, and you can kind of open the pipe a little bit. But when they're saying no, I've heard two things on this chat. I have heard non-linear or linear, and then I've heard not sandbox. So you're right. I mean, they're different. You sent me the link. Let me grab it. And I will get to that super chat in just a second, buddy. I appreciate it. While I'm looking for the link, though, so here's what I was going to say. Let's assume for the moment, for the sake of argument, for the sake of moving this discussion along, let's assume that it is going to be no sandbox, okay? GameSpot, Splinter Cell. At that point, they would have to be looking. I guess what I'm wondering is, what is it that made them go, even though we're making all this money with the sandbox games, and even though that's become our bread and butter, why would we go back to a franchise that, you know, people say they miss, but it's, you know, whatever. It's not like, you know, Splinter Cell was a big hit, but it was never as big as Valhalla or Assassin's Creed. Why would they say, let's take that chance and make a game that you play once and you're kind of done with it, right? That I'm curious about that. I mean, I think that's great. Maybe that's a good fucking sign for the company moving forward. All right, all I see is Ubisoft confirmed the remake will be built from the ground up using the studio's Snowdrop engine used on The Division 2. They're also currently using it for Star Wars and Avatar. Ubisoft has confirmed the title will feature dynamic lighting and shadows. Wow. That will be incorporated into the game's design as well as a linear narrative. Well, that's okay. Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're talking about? That's not what that doesn't say what you think it says, if this is what you're talking about. I'll read the whole sentence. Ubisoft has also confirmed the title will have a linear narrative that just might subvert expectations fans had of another open world sandbox game from the company. Do you know what I just finished last night? Was Halo, the campaign, that had a linear narrative that took place in a sandbox. Yeah, linear narrative, says Brian East, just means story. That doesn't mean the game is linear. It means probably that you have an open world sandbox, and then you can go to the points on the map that let you go through the story in a linear way. That doesn't say what I think you think it says, unless it's somewhere else in the article. But I'm control Fing to find linear, and I only see it once. So we'll see, though. Ubisoft wants the linear game that gets a lot of accolades, like The Last of Us. I wonder why. I mean, you may be right, Road Derp Cop, but I wonder why. Okay, well, where do they say it, Scott Shooter? In this article, Scott Shooter says, no, they did say linear, not open world. Cool. Let me do one more search, and we're going to move on. But okay, linear, not open world, Splinter Cell remake. That's all I can do. According to Ubisoft's announcement, the remake won't go open world. Instead, there'll be linear levels where every square inch is part of a choice or directly offers a choice. I don't even know what that means. Let's look at that. Eric, I can't find your link though, buddy. Okay, let's see. Linear. Okay. There'll be linear levels where every square inch part of a choice. The team working, it'll have updated visuals, tweaks. Hang on. If you're listening, I apologize. I'll try to cut this part out. Not the conversation, but these pauses. Because I'm looking for the open world. Okay. As we're building it from the ground up, we're going to update it visually as well as some of the design elements to match player comfort. And we are going to keep it linear like the original games, not make it open world. How do we make sure that new fans are able to pick up the controller and dive right in? Okay, well then that is... Okay, so Max Blaze, right. Max Blaze says it's going to be a cinematic game. Yeah, there you go then. Okay, so that goes back to the question then. So my original assumption was that they're going to fuck this up. Now my assumption is I think that's great, but why in the fuck would Ubisoft allow that? You'd think they would say no goddamn way. would be my initial thought, given, the lack of success and the huge success they've had with Sandbox Formula. But maybe they are looking at God of War. Maybe they are looking at what else? Tomb Raider, and going, well, we could probably make enough money. I don't know. It just seems weird to me that you've made so much money in one way, and then they want to try this way that historically makes people play it once and be done with it. But we'll see. Oh, God, encryption, we'll talk about that in a second. Shadow Screed says they will make it right. Dude, I'm sorry. I do not trust Ubisoft as far as I can throw them. I'm not saying you're wrong. That they'll make it right, but I'm not just going to trust these guys. These guys have said a lot of things they're going to do, and they haven't done. Celtic says Last of Us series isn't great just because of mechanics. It's because of the narrative. They're very well-paced games that give you just enough control. Yeah, no, I'm not saying I don't like these games. I love more linear games. And I'm glad EA is remaking Dead Space linear. I think that's wonderful. I'm just saying that I'm surprised given Ubisoft's recent tendency. Ubisoft games will all follow the exact same template, says Eddie, down to the menus and UI. I don't even care about them bringing back classic franchises because they will butcher them. Yeah, I know, but if these guys are saying they're not going to follow that cookie cutter formula, then that's cool. Celtic says, I guess my question for Splinter Cell is what could they possibly do that's new? What new gadget, tech, or mechanic hasn't been done in stealth gaming? I will answer that in the very next story we're going to talk about that relates to Silent Hill. I will give you your answer. It's exactly what we're going to be talking about in just a second. I want to get this first super chat. Thank you, Totally Sick of Onions. He says, hey, Jaffe, I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, happy holidays. Whoops, come on up there. Happy holidays and happy global sharing. Don't be a poop. Don't be a poop. Remember, hard times are real, and you don't know who fakes it, but just give. Peace sign. Thank you. 1999. Totally. I thought your name was 1999. Thank you, Totally Sick of Onions, and thank you for the call earlier. You're not wrong, and that's one of the things I hate the most, and one of the reasons I love doing the stream the most is the idea of people faking their lives. I hate it. Social media has made it worse. It's just... I just wish people could be honest. I'm not saying when I do the stream, I have a little more pep in my step because I need to kind of, have more energy to communicate well. But I don't put on airs. I don't put on a shtick. I don't put on an act. This is who I am. And I'm not saying that like I'm tooting my own horn. I'm saying that like that's one of the reasons I do the stream. And one of the reasons I like other streamers, certain streamers, because there's a sense of authenticity that I think is important for people to see. Because a lot of people get real depressed. Hell, around this time of year, all those fucking fake-ass fucking postcards that go out from these fucking families. Look at our perfect family. Fuck you. You know what I want to see in a Christmas card? I want to see a Christmas card of the teenage kid who's starting to experiment with weed and mushrooms and maybe something harder. I want to see the dad that's having an affair. I want to see the mom that checks out every night by drinking a bottle of alcohol. That's America. I'm not saying there's not the good stuff too. There's the great stuff, of course. But don't fucking sell me on that bullshit. I'm sick of seeing it. But I appreciate the super chat, Sick of Onions. Thank you, pal. Where did that go? Come on now, I'm looking for it. Oh, Crazy Assassin says, Jaffe, that sounds awful. I am painting the life for you of some of these people that we know in our neighborhood. Okay? This is real. I know a guy, okay, who gets up at 3 in the morning every day, 4 in the morning, because he does finance. And his finance clients start in New York. They're already working in Japan. He doesn't like his job. You know what he loves to do? He loves to be an artist. He's a really good artist. I've seen his paintings. That's his passion. But he does this because it makes him a lot of money, what society says you should chase after. And that's what he does. And time goes fast, fellas. It goes faster than you can imagine. And I'll tell you something. He's going to wake up one day and go, I have spent my whole life making all this money for other people just so I could have what society tells me I'm supposed to have. And I have shat away my time to explore what makes me really happy. Think about that. This is real shit. Celtic says, totally right. I hate when the wife asks kids to retake pictures. I always get like, no, that's how they pose. That's how they look. Leave them alone. That's right. That's right. Oh, God. Rob the Mod says, I'll send you my holiday card if that's what you want to see. Sure, send it to me. Why doesn't he quit his job, says Josh. I don't know. Probably because the stress and the anxiety from the real world pushes in on him. And that desire to fit in and be normal is what probably floats his boat more. I don't fucking know. Listen to this. I was going to answer somebody's question. Silent Hill creator thinks remaking his horror classic would be more difficult than remaking Resident Evil. This story doesn't have a lot of it doesn't have a lot of details about Silent Hill Remake. In fact, this is the guy who's working on the new game that we saw at the Game Awards the other night, which was one of my favorite trailers with a weird-ass name. What was it called? What the fuck is this thing called? Slitterhead. It's fucking weird as fuck. I loved it. I fucking loved it. But he's talking about Silent Hill. He says it would be easier to remake Biohazard, Resident Evil, gameplay as a concept. I think it would be harder to make Silent Hill than Biohazard because the gameplay in Silent Hill as a concept is a little older. It's not an action game where you can refine the action as in Resident Evil. To bring Silent Hill up to standards, to polish the graphics, the fans wouldn't be satisfied. That's not what it was ever about, how beautiful it was, right? But here's the interesting part that really got me thinking. He says, unlike movies, games are difficult to enjoy in the original state. Obviously because of the platform, but as time goes by, game mechanics, especially in usability, lack rationality and sophistication. Okay, so, and I started thinking about this, and I started thinking about what other medium suffers from this. And movies do, in that it's kind of hard for kids today to go back and watch silent movies without getting bored. But there's a long gap. There's a big chasm between that time when a movie's too antiquated and for a kid to watch today. It's 20, 30 years, depending on the movie. Literature suffers from this, right? It's hard to go back. If you've ever tried to go back and read a book like Little Women, which I tried to read in college, it was written so different. It's still a great story, but everything, Louisa May Alcott, the author, describes everything. It was a time when it's like, and she sat in the chair, and the chair was made of this kind of upholstery that you can only get in India. And it was this sort of red that reminded her of the red of the sky when the sun, it's just like, get to the story, right? So video games, though, have a shelf life, it seems, of like 4 or 5 years, and then it's kind of nostalgia. I struggle with this because this is what we talk about all the time, the idea of games being art, and why do people outgrow games, but they don't outgrow movies. And I want to show you this. This is interesting to me. So I was thinking about, this is the latest, that's not the latest is RE3, but this is Resident Evil 2 Remake, which is fucking phenomenal. Love this game. Most people who played it love this game. I played this recently. I had never played Code Veronica before. If you're not looking at your screen, I'm showing screen grabs of RE2 Remake and Code Veronica. And as you can imagine, Code Veronica, which was a Dreamcast launch, or it launched on the Dreamcast, looks positively antiquated. But I played it, and even though I struggled with the controls and stuff, I still had a good time. It was still a lot of fun. And I started thinking, it's like, well, okay, it was a lot of fun, but the truth of the matter is this gameplay in Code Veronica really is not much different than this gameplay in RE2 Remake or Remaster, whatever the fuck they called it. It really isn't. The camera's different, the gore is different, but the moment-to-moment gameplay is almost identical, right? And so you would think, because the visuals got upgraded, it's almost like if you go back and remake a movie from the 40s and you don't change anything, you just make it look better, you would think if it was bad in the 40s, it would be bad today. And I think that's accurate. But in this case, gamers don't seem to be demanding anything different. They seem to be comfortable. with the same gameplay over and over, as long as it looks better and is shiny and bright and bloody and gory. Which makes me wonder, maybe the real problem is the controller. If you don't see your screen, I'm holding up a controller. Because maybe it's like, this is as good as we can do in a way that this is all we can communicate with the game is these buttons and sticks. So maybe it makes sense why their games really haven't advanced. It has nothing to do with anything other than the fucking controller. Because it's crazy to me when you look at how similar this game is to this game at a pure abstract level of gameplay, and people are fine with it. People are totally fine with it. Jack says, funny enough, I think games are timeless. I want to ask, what games do you still play from the past, from 2005 or the 80s? Define timeless, Jack J. What do you mean they're timeless? I mean, are there some games that hold up? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I agree more with Turbo. Turbo says, Jaffe, when's the last time you went back and played some of your older stuff? I grew up on Twisted. I went back and tried it today, and it was better as nostalgia. Absolutely. 100%. I do think God of War 1 from 2005, which is 15 years old, 16 years old, that holds up for me. That still works for me, even though it's long in the tooth. But I agree with you on Twisted Metal. If you're not playing for nostalgia, you probably shouldn't be fucking playing it, because it doesn't hold up. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. So to go back to the Silent Hill guy, where he's talking about, unlike movies, games are hard to enjoy in the original state. Doesn't that say something? Yeah, I agree, Bacon. Bacon says, I still play Miss Pac-Man and Tetris. Yes, there are some games that hold up. It's absolutely accurate. But for the most part, okay, so either what you're saying is, for the most part, even the games that we love today aren't really that great. We just like the production value. Or there are some that hold up, but the vast majority don't. I mean, is that what you're really saying? Are we really saying that as much as we say that we love Resident Evil 2 Remake, it's ultimately, it's the same fucking thing? Uwu says, I cherry pick, but those come to mind. I think whenever you're looking back, you cherry pick because you remember the stuff that was classic and you forget 90% of everything else that came out. When games reside within their constraints, they age fantastically, says CR. That's a great point. However, when they push new grounds, they come off as dated. I think it's... I will tie it back to Splinter Cell Cooper. Cooper, ever the writer. He's like, where's the callback, you son of a bitch? When games reside within their constraints, I wasn't necessarily talking about not pushing new grounds, but I think when games try to be a game and they don't try to be a movie, maybe that... No. Because, yeah, Mutant Mo says GoldenEye doesn't hold up, and that wasn't really trying to be a movie. Josh Douglas says going back to watching movies even from 10 years ago is weird because the graphics are outdated. Let me just say this. I don't have a solve. I don't have an absolute answer, and I know what the answer to this is. I just think there is something to me that has been fascinating for a very long time about message boards that at least 5 times a year, you have to see these as well, right? I'm getting bored of gaming. Can you outgrow gaming? Have I outgrown gaming? Why don't I like games as much as I used to? Now, I don't feel that way, but I see these messages. I never see people say, I've outgrown music, I've outgrown movies, I've outgrown books. I've never seen that, ever. And it just makes me wonder, that stands in stark contrast to the games are art argument, which I do think they are. But I think why it bothers me is, I think from a design standpoint, we're not there yet. And we keep showing the visuals that look like movies and say we're there. But we're not, because we can't square this issue, I think. Eddie says it varies person to person how much they value production values. I don't care and enjoy all the games I grew up with to this day. You enjoy them nostalgically. Are you telling me that you enjoy the games you grew up with, like fundamentally they're still, I could sit and play Asteroids on my Atari when I was 10 years old for hours, and I did that. But I couldn't, I wouldn't want to go back and do that now. Are you saying you could do that? Snow on the Web says, Jaffe, I just wanted to say thanks from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you. The games you worked on I've always had a strong connection to. Yes, I'm an old fart like you. Old school, baby, LOL. Thank you, Snow. I appreciate that. It is very kind. It is very courteous. Now is the part of the stream where we all take our clothes off and talk to good Sir Kaiden. Kaiden, it's Jaffe. What's going on, you old so-and-so?
Hey, Jaffe. Glad you're doing okay.
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Doing some painting here, some hobby artwork.
Okay. What would you like to talk about?
I just wanted to talk not smack exactly, but about the Silent Hill remake potential.
Okay.
It was said that Silent Hill just doesn't have the same potential as Biohazard, was it said?
Well,
it's
he
because,
didn't. He said that it would be easier to do a remaster or remake of Biohazard because it's easier to look at the way action is designed and refine that, the gunplay, the aiming, whatnot. He's saying the essence of Silent Hill was never the production value, and it was more of a subtle thing that made that game what it is, and that's why it would be harder, because it's not as easy to look at Silent Hill and just flip the camera and make the graphics better, and suddenly it's the same game. I think that was his point.
Exactly, because I think it was the graphical limitations of the project that actually gave them more creativity. Because of the rendering limits of the PS1, it couldn't let them render the entire town, and that's
Sure.
why they had to block off the rest with fog, and that became the staple. But nowadays, if you were to release a game that exactly like Silent Hill as it is right now, the PS1, nobody would care about it much. Well, anyway,
Yeah, I mean,
that's a Silent Hill ripoff.
They did one recently this year. What was the thing called? Spaz played it. I played it on stream. About the girl tormented souls or something, and it was pretty good.
In the asylum with the
Yeah.
marionettes or whatever.
I don't remember if they're marionettes, but yeah, I mean, there's certainly that. I think horror becomes a much harder thing to advance. I think if you look at a bunch of horror games, the graphics look better, but they still suffer from the thing. A lot of they all kind of are playing in the tropes because I don't know. I think it's just a harder genre to sort of advance and to evolve is horror versus action. So I think that's more what he's talking about. But yeah, I mean, look, I think you could remake Silent Hill and still block off the view in the distance because the fog looks really amazing. But I don't think, I mean, plenty of games have done that now. So I think, you've really got it's a more imaginative challenge to remake Silent Hill or remaster Silent Hill than I think it is to do that with BioShock, is what I think he's saying. And I totally agree with that.
True. 50% of the horror from Silent Hill, at least according to my experience, is the soundtrack and the sound effects, because the musician Akira Yamaoka, I think he's been doing most of the soundtracks for the series, at least out of tradition now. He makes the music in such a way that even if there's no enemy, if there's a completely safe spot that you're in, no enemies nearby, you're at the edge of your seat. You think something is just going to pop out of the fog or the dark and just attack you at any second. It's just anxiety turned into music.
I have to assume it's that mixed with the fact that you already know you've been trained and conditioned for that, and then the music just sort of adds to that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tricks they pull. But I've played a lot of horror games since Silent Hill, and I never even finished Silent Hill. I didn't like it. But and I will say somebody needs to come up with a new bag of tricks. All right, Kaiden, thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for calling.
Take care.
All right, Jarvie, I'll bring you in just a second. Bukaki says the shitty graphics make you use your imagination to fill in the gaps. Absolutely true. I mean, think about, I grew up in the days of Atari. That's all we had was our imagination. Come on now. Celtic says horror games need great characters. If you don't care about the protagonist, you can't share in their fear. 20 years ago, you could get away with not having them because it was a new experience. I mean, I don't think it hurts if you care about the character, but this is what I'm saying. Look, I used to be this guy that said, I don't think if you want to be a designer, you need to go to college. And I still don't think if you want to work and get paid to be a designer, you need to go to college. I don't think you do. But I do think a fascinating but ultimately useless to your own future, but the future of the industry would thank you, would be to get the right people studying games in at a college level, at a professorial level, because, there's so many things like what you're saying. Horror games need great characters. The fact of the matter is the scariest games that I've ever played don't have the trappings of horror. Tetris is a scarier game, and I'm not being obtuse or anything. When I say that, I mean that sense of angst and anxiety and worry and fear that comes from when those blocks are starting to stack up, right? Or if you're playing a game like SOCOM, and or Battle Royale, goodness gracious, playing PUBG for the first time was much more terrifying than any horror game I had played. And it's because at a mechanics level, in a game, you were genuinely, you were living the horror of metaphorically having something meaningful taken away from you, which is what horror is about when you're watching a story, right? That level of understanding and how then you can take that understanding and execute it as a game, there's so much. Or even what this guy's saying about, why is why is BioShock from 2 years ago the same gameplay as BioShock from Code Veronica, but it's still compelling just because they've changed the graphics. There's so much shit that I just don't think we understand or we've dive deep into yet about why this medium works the way it works, that I don't think it has anything to do with the character. I mean, I think that's a nice bonus, but I don't think I have to care about Leon in Resident Evil to have some genuine scares. Totally Sick says, gotta go. Happy holidays. You too, sir. Yeah, Zero says the sound of Sonic drowning or Mario running out of time in games is straight up terrifying. Yeah, that dun 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 dun. That absolutely, totally true. It's kind of like the famous shark movie, Jaws. The scariest thing was your imagination. You forgot the name Jaws? Come on now. Goodness gracious. Silent Hill was lightning in a bottle, says Diego. Its influence, deepness, and sort of personal indie feeling could not be replicated in a AAA game studio. Oh, Red Candle took the tour. Listen, that's the other thing. It's a great point. If you have not played Devotion by Red Candle Games, don't say you want a Silent Hill remake. Red Candle Games, especially Devotion, which you can only get online at their store, is one of the best horror games I've ever fucking played. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That game is fucking awesome. Horror games are harder than movies, says Turbo. I agree. The best movies have character building and slow tension building to the big fright. Gamers want a bad guy jumping out in the first 30 seconds. That, and more importantly, horror games don't have camera. And I don't mean they don't have camera in cutscenes, and I don't mean they don't have fixed camera. But if I was working on a horror game design a while back, and it was really interesting to me because I was looking at screenshots of, I forget what it was, but it was some girl chasing you in this Victorian mansion or whatever, right? And when you see that in a movie, it's lit for the shot and the camera is positioned for the scare and it shows you just enough. And if you watch the Mike Flanagan, like Haunting of Bly House or whatever, all these little things in the background that you're like, did I just see that? I don't know. Games can do things like that, but if they try to take the tricks one-to-one without the camera to sell it, it just looks like something at the Spirit Halloween store off in the corner. You're not like, oh my God, that thing's staring at me from the corner. It's like, that just looks like a 3D model that's been posed and it's just staring at me in the distance. It doesn't look scary at all. Oh, Jesus. SS9, don't be an idiot. He says, thanks for the stream, Jaffe. You're helping me get home safely because I'm buzzed. Pull over, you moron. There are families out there. There are little kids out there on the road. What's the matter with you? Pull the fucking car over. That's shit, dude. You should be ashamed of yourself. You really fucking should. Okay, let me bring in Jarvie real quick. Jarvie, it's Jaffe. What's up, man? Jarvie, where are you, sir? Well, I think he is nowhere to be found. Let's bring in Vitaphone. Vitaphone, it's Jaffe. What's up?
Hey, Jeff. Just wanted to untease some of this idea that people grow out of gaming, but they don't grow out of other art mediums.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I'm not saying people don't grow out of certain genres, but I've never heard of somebody going, I no longer like to sit and watch linear narrative, whether it's TV or movies. You're telling me you have?
No. Well, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about why I think maybe that's a little more common in gaming than it is other mediums.
I would love to know your theory. I'm very curious.
Sure. So I have a lot of friends. I'm in, I'm up in age. I've been around since Nintendo. I have a lot of friends that also play games, and a lot of my friends have kind of drifted out of the medium since around, I don't know, the last 6, 7, 8 years, because I feel like at the end of the PS3 era and the 360 era, something that used to only happen at the end of a generation, like the Nintendo era, the 16-bit era, even the PlayStation era, is that a lot of homogenization has crept in. I feel like as the industry has moved more and more towards AAA or go home, not funding, more of that B and C and A-tier games, you've just kind of seen the same game over and over and over. Like Assassin's Creed, I love the first couple of them. I personally don't need anything more from those games because it's, like we were talking about, the Ubisoft formula has crept in. Just that homogenization across the board with the bigger developers, as we just really haven't seen much past that era of game. The entire Xbox One era, I played maybe about 25 games all the way through, whereas in the 360 era, that first 5 years, I was playing something different all the time.
It's interesting in that, let me just make sure I understand, because I think I understand. You're saying that is the games that most mainstream people, other than cell phone games, which are huge, would have connection with would be the big games that are marketed and that they're not going to go searching Steam for some indie darling and that has great gameplay. They wouldn't even know what to look for. But if the average people that you grew up with that were into gaming and now aren't, they probably are watching TV and seeing ads for the big AAA games. And you're right. It's funny that those are the games they spend all the money on. But by spending all the money on them, they are... Most other mediums go, when we spend a lot of money, we have to play to all the audience. Games is the only medium I can think of that says when we spend a lot of money, we have to play to it's a big enough audience to make a lot of money, but it actually serves to push more of the audience away. I think that's what you're saying, and I think that's right, actually.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think back to like the Nintendo era, after the first 3 or 4 years, you kind of saw like everything was kind of like everything else for the last stretch of that. And then the 16-bit era came in. They could do all sorts of new things. Game developers are trying all sorts of new things. Game developers are publishing, throwing money at a lot more different things, and you're getting like a different type of experience. And that happened in that 360 PS3 era. So many games like BioShock and games that are taking a formula and severely tweaking it, and they're seeing lots of success. But I really feel that past the end of that era, the whole Xbox One and PS4 era and the era we're in now, we're really not seeing a whole lot in the mainstream that is drastically different. We're seeing game developers just continue to iterate rather than innovate on where they're throwing their money at.
Yeah, but what do you say? Okay, so what you're saying, though, is because I guess I hear that, and I think it makes a lot of sense, but then I'm also presented with Ubisoft saying Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is, 8 in a series that we're all fucking sick of, at least we say we are, has sold better than any other Assassin's Creed in history. So maybe what you're saying is it's they do this for their short-term success, but it ends up pushing people out because the people who either aren't super hardcore or that fall out of that sweet spot because they age out of it, they move on to other things.
Well, yeah, they move on to other things because if you're like, Joe Sixpack and like you buy 2 or 3 games a year, eventually even that guy goes, I've played this game for now 10 years. I'm just done. Like, I'm checking out largely out of games and I'm going to maybe only buy 1 game a year. And there is a one thing that consistently like happens when people talk about the success of games is that the install base tramples, the 360 era. So a success now that moves X amount of units, that is a quote unquote success. They're still not really hitting the addressable market. Their like actual sold units look good, but as far as the attachment rate, it's dropping like generation after generation where people are buying less games. There are just a lot more people that have a console now that will buy their 1 or 2 games a year.
Yeah, well, what I can say is this: there's something about it that feels, there's something about it. And again, I just came off playing Halo, which I absolutely fucking loved. I wasn't, I don't feel like I've outgrown games, but
Sure.
At the same time, though, there's something about the fact that the medium still seems to be struggling to be. To have arrived at a point yet where anybody can pick up a game and go, oh my God, that really moved me or excited me beyond like, oh, I was up late last night playing Candy Crush or something. I think there's something weird about that. Maybe that's just the way games always will be. I don't know. It's just like, look, they're hard to get into. And so if you're not willing to go over that barrier, you're not going to get that reward. It's, maybe there's nothing we can do about that until we have, AI that writes the game itself. But anyway, good discussion. It's something I think about all the time. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Thanks, Vita.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks.
All right, man. I don't know if I agree with some people in the chat. I don't know if I agree with this idea that Dan says people don't grow out of games anymore. That's a farce. Your tastes just change. That doesn't even make any sense, Dan. I understand that you might grow out of a genre or a franchise because your tastes change, but I don't grow out of movies because I no longer like to watch. My kids are a great example. When my kids were little, they watched, a bunch of stupid fucking like the movie Sing or all these animated movies or Minions and all that shit. They grow up, they're not over movies. They're just over that particular kind of movie. But I don't see how your taste changed from going, I like interactive medium. I don't understand that. Hello, Jason B. Good to see you again, buddy. I appreciate that. Thank you very, very much. We age, our responsibilities change, says Doug. Time becomes more precious. A movie or TV show is easier to consume than most games, which require lots of time. Well, that's certainly a big point. There's certainly great value in what you're saying, which is one of the reasons I always think games should fucking be shorter. But I know a lot of people get pissed at me when I say that. I finished Halo campaign a lot of times. I rarely finish anything. Clearly, I liked it because I finished it. But I would be lying if I said there weren't times in that game where I'm like, oh, can we be done? Like, I kept thinking I was coming close to the end, and it just kept going and going. And it wasn't too long, but it was probably 15% longer than it needed to be. Allie says games use more senses, and it's interactive. I think players look for a new experience each time. I would agree, Allie, but then again, if you look at your screen, maybe not so much, because this game, this experience, Allie, is this experience. I was staggered by how much what I was doing moment to moment was identical, even though the games looked absolutely unique. Pause says, I'm an older gamer too. I'm slowly getting bored of games. Why? I try and look for different games all the time, getting bored of first-person shooters as they're the same in different skin storyline. I think for me, I think for me, if I didn't have the weird games that I play and the unique games on things like Steam and itch.io, I don't think I would be as into games as I am. But my diet of gaming is so varied that I love the medium now. And frankly, a lot of my love of the medium right now is from being stunted. When you work in games, or at least when I worked in games, I couldn't enjoy them the way you guys enjoyed them. I had a very different filter I saw things through out of necessity to compete. But now that I've been out of that for a while, I've been able to really sit and enjoy just being a gamer and go, oh, Yeah, I love this. I've missed this for a while. Gabriel says, love you, Jaffe. Happy holidays. Same to you, sir. Absolutely. CR says, I hate how I can detect the vertical slice now. I see the repetitive nature of the design. Yeah, I mean, that's the other part. I mean, games are modular. They wear out their welcome because I will tell you, I'm working on a game right now. I asked the guys at Movie Games if I could stream it. It's incredibly early, and what they sent me the other day was just a block out of one of the levels. And I don't even know if I'm going to be able to share it with you, but if I am, I think it would be fun. But the point is, though, it is laid out bare, like the first database of that game is just a test bed of all the mechanics. It's like, here's how the doors work, and here's how this puzzle works, and here's how this enemy mechanic works. And it just walks you through it. It's not for the player, it's for the team, and it's just to kind of prove everything's working. And then the second database, which is what I would try to stream, is when the main designer put it all together into say, here's how we can put this in a level. And yeah, once you see that's how games are made, and other than, there's a reason they call them special cases, because they're special cases. Other than those rare things that are special and unique, the game is all about being made to use those modular pieces over and over and over. Hang on. And when you see that, it definitely, it definitely becomes a little harder. I think there are ways to get around that from a design standpoint, but it's absolutely true. Jarvie says it won't let me connect. This is my first time using Discord. I'm sorry for that. Had a panic attack. I really do want to apologize. Oh, Jesus, shut up, Jarvie. And you didn't waste my time. Call back anytime. Try, put yourself back on. I don't care. Come on now. Jason says, I play games less today more than ever. I think it's my age. I'm 42. Maybe I'm lazy. I'm watching more movies and streaming media than ever. I still don't have a PS5 or Series X. I think you dip in and out of it, man. You dip in and out of it. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't know if you'll ever come back. I used to think with comics, I can tell you with games, I come back. With comics, I come back. I thought with comics, I would be done with it. There was a point, and I was actually working at Sony Santa Monica, so this had to have been 2006 or whatever. And we used to get free comics from DC and Marvel because we were in discussions at various points with these guys to make a game based on their characters. And so they would just put us on a list, a comp list, and every month we would get, 40 comics from each company. And there was one moment I was sitting in the lobby waiting for, I forget who it was, this person I was going to go to lunch with. And I looked at the cover of, it was either like a Nightwing comic or a Teen Titans comic or whatever. And I saw Robin, the superhero Robin, like leaping into an alley about to kick somebody's ass on the cover of the book. And it, for the first time, struck me that it was so dumb. I'm like, what am I looking at? This is a almost grown man dressed up like a little bird in these colorful panties and shirt, and he's got a cape. What is this shit that I'm reading, And I thought, okay, that was it. I thought for whatever reason I had moved out of the suspension of disbelief bubble. I was done with comics. And I've 6 months later, I was back into them hardcore. So with comics, I come in and out. And I think that might be games for a lot of people. CR says, look, man, I'm fine with modularity of video games, but it's more about simplicity. Take the 90s Doom, for example. It's simple in concept, but the level design coupled with the enemy dynamics creates an intriguing experience. Well, I mean, that's the thing. That's what a really good designer does. And frankly, that's why I don't think I have ever been as good of a designer as the great designers, and certainly not the best designers, because I'm more of a writer designer. I'm special case every day because I get bored easily. A really good designer, like the guy who's designing this thing that I'm consulting on in Poland right now, it part of, I think, what gives designers like that joy is the absolute process of going, here are my here's my bag of tricks. It's got 15 magic tricks in it. I've got to fill 8 to 15 hours of gameplay. How do I move these around in such a way that keeps the player on their toes and engaged without the programmers basically quitting because I'm asking for new stuff every 5 fucking minutes? I mean, that's what a good designer does. And I think, yeah, you're right. If you can keep it engaging, you're off to the races. See, Celtic says, Jaffe, don't sell yourself short. You were right to say God of War holds up because after all the time it does. I appreciate that. And I know I agree with you. But again, God of War holds up for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is because I drove the team insane going, I need a special case. I need a special case. I need a special case. Because I couldn't see the way to design it where I was just reusing elements over and over and over and over. That's all I'm fucking saying. That's all I'm fucking saying. Okay. Let me see what else we got. We got a bunch of stuff. We're probably not going to get to all of it tonight. That's worth saving for tomorrow, for goddamn sure. Yeah, these are all good. You know what? We're saving all these. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Yeah, I will be back tomorrow with another Gabbin' and Games. I am going to try to gab and game. I'm going to try to do it daily. If not daily, 3 times a week. I'm going to give it a shot, fellas. We'll see what happens. But that has been Gabbin' and Games for today. I'll go to the chat for a few minutes, see what you guys want to talk about. And then I may see you guys tonight because there is an update to Gas Station Attendant or Gas Station Simulator, and there's some neat surprises I want to show off. And I also just want to get back to playing it now that I am done playing Halo. Although I do want to get back to multiplayer Halo. Somebody said, Jaffe, did you beat Halo Infinite off stream? I did, Sector. I'm starting to realize that the more single player games I play off stream, the more I like them. And multiplayer games I can stream all the time, or silly fun stuff like Gas Station Simulator. But yeah, I did finish that off stream. So, Cooper, yes, that's right. There are new Halo modes I want to get to. I was a little surprised and bummed that there weren't new maps. That was a little weird to me. I assumed that the maps they had for multiplayer in the beta, we would get some new ones when the game officially launched on the 8th or whatever it was. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird. But I hear the modes. I know they have Fiesta as a mode. Rob was telling me they have the SWAT thing as a mode. So I'm looking forward to it. Yu says, is there a chance you'll watch the new Xbox doc on stream? Maybe if I get high, I'll do it. If enough people are interested. I'm not, I don't really tend to like documentaries about the game industry that are basically marketing. Like I looked at Raising Kratos and I appreciated it, but I also was like, I kind of know how the sausage is made and I know what's bullshit and what's not. But it would be interesting. I will look into it. CR says, I know you won't admit it, but Barlog turned God of War into God of War The Last of Us Edition. What's not to admit? I think it's... Look, here's one of the reasons I love Halo. And I loved God of War, by the way. And I loved Last of Us 2, by the way. But what I'll tell you is that when I played Ghost of Tsushima, Days Gone, and Halo, one of the things I loved about all 3 of those is I couldn't see the director. I couldn't see sort of the sense of, I want to create this thing that has pathos and earnestness and meaning. It felt more like watching a really fun summer movie, And I loved that because I'm kind of tired of the director's thumb being so clearly on the scale. Even though I love the new God of War and I love The Last of Us, I that auteur kind of gameplay I love, but I'm enjoying a break from it. So I don't mind that God of War. God of War had to evolve. I know you're saying that's not a bad thing, CR, but God of War, if they would have kept going down the road, it would have been, it would have been diminishing returns. It would have been Twisted Metal. You have to stay current. You have to go, where the audience wants to be. And I'm not saying there isn't an audience that would want a hack and slash God of War. But the fact of the matter is, if they wouldn't have done what they did, I don't think people would really still be talking about God of War in the same way. And so I appreciate what they did. I'm glad that Kratos is still relevant. Are you kidding? I've talked about that before. I love that, man. I love people have always, and I understand because unless you're in the experience, it's easy to assume that someone like me would look at the experience and be resentful. But I'm like, I'm really not. I am so grateful that this thing that I was key to creating and bringing to the world is, yeah, it's different. But it's still fucking going strong. I'm going to show you something. Let me show you something on your TV screen for a moment. This, I've talked about it, but let me actually show you. So I remember being at Comic-Con. I just want to show you what it looks like. Joker original. So the original Joker, not original art, Joker original. Like, I saw the guy, I forget what his name was, who created the original Joker in 1940. I guess. Let's see. Concept, Golden Age. Let's look at the Golden Age. So this is the debut of the Joker, right? And now you think back to the Joker, and the Joker today is who's the guy who's the Joker now who did a really good job? Joaquin Phoenix. Well, the guy who made this probably would have never thought to make the Joaquin Phoenix version of the Joker or the Heath Ledger version of the Joker. But the Joker's still out there. And that's what I think is pretty cool about Kratos, is that, yeah, he's changed, but he's still Kratos and he's still out in the world. And that makes me real happy. The other thing that makes me real happy is that you guys have chosen to spend some of your day hanging out with me. I appreciate that. I'm about to go off and watch some TV with the family. That's what we do lately. It's one of my favorite parts of the day, along with spending time with you guys. I'll probably be back on streaming tonight. I did want to say thank you for all the super chats. Thank you to the new members. Rob the Mod, thank you so much for keeping this band of merry fucksticks on the straight and narrow. I appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow with a new Gabbing Games, and I hope to see you there, probably earlier than this one. Be well, you guys. Be safe. Don't get COVID. Don't get herpes. All that good stuff.